She looked me dead in the eyes and said, "I don't see this lasting forever. So don't get too attached while enjoying this penthouse I'm paying for." That's when I knew I had her exactly where I wanted her. What happened next? Well, let's just say the hunter became the hunted, and the safety net she thought she had was about to disappear. This story happened 10 months ago in Miami, and I'm finally ready to tell you everything. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll understand why they say revenge is a dish best served cold. My name is Marcus. I'm 29, and I work as a senior project manager for a tech startup in downtown Miami, pulling in about $95,000 a year. Not Silicon Valley money, but enough to live comfortably in a nice 2-bedroom condo in Brickell with a view of the bay. I drive a paid-off Jeep Wrangler, have about $25,000 in savings, and I've always been the type who plans ahead. My investment portfolio was growing steadily. I maxed out my 401k, and I had a 5-year plan mapped out. Growing up in Detroit, I watched my uncle lose everything in 2008 because he lived paycheck to paycheck with no emergency fund. That lesson stuck with me. Financial responsibility wasn't just smart, it was survival. But here's what I didn't expect. My biggest strength would become the weapon someone would use against me. I met her at SoulCycle in South Beach on a Thursday morning in March. The class was packed with the usual Miami crowd: Instagram models, real estate agents, trust fund kids, and people like me who actually worked for their money. Her name was Madison, and she was the kind of woman who could stop traffic on Ocean Drive, platinum blonde hair that looked like she'd just stepped out of a salon, even at 7 a.m., a body that screamed personal trainer and expensive supplements, workout gear that probably cost more than most people's rent. She had this aura about her, confident, untouchable, like she knew every guy in that room was stealing glances. What should have been my first red flag. She approached me. I was toweling off after class when she walked over, smiled with those perfect veneered teeth, and said, "You looked like you were actually working hard in there. Most guys just come here to stare." Classic opener, but I was hooked. We talked for 20 minutes about fitness, Miami, our jobs. She mentioned she worked in luxury brand consulting, whatever that meant, for high-end boutiques in the design district. When I told her I was in tech and owned my place in Brickell, her interest level visibly increased. We exchanged numbers, and by that night, we were texting constantly. Within a week, I'd asked her out to Zuma in downtown Miami. She suggested it, actually, saying she'd always wanted to try their omakase. I should have Googled the prices first. The bill came to $340 for 2 people, but seeing how impressed she was, how she kept saying she'd never dated someone who could afford places like this, I figured it was worth it. The first month was intoxicating. Madison would come over almost every night, claiming her roommate's situation in Wynwood was complicated and that my place was so much more peaceful. She'd arrive around dinner time, convenient timing. I realize now, and we'd either order from whatever trendy restaurant she was craving, or I'd cook while she took Instagram stories on my balcony overlooking the bay. But here's where the story gets interesting, and where I started noticing patterns that would later save my life. Madison never paid for anything. Not coffee, not gas, not even when she suggested we split an appetizer. Her wallet was always in the car, her banking app was acting weird, or she'd just gotten a manicure and couldn't touch her phone. Her Uber account was perpetually having technical issues, so I'd drive her everywhere in my Jeep or send her money for rides. The physical chemistry was incredible. So I convinced myself this was normal. Maybe she was traditional. Maybe she was going through a rough patch. Maybe this is how dating worked when you were successful. Looking back, I was being groomed. 2 months in, Madison's true personality started emerging. She'd gotten comfortable with our financial dynamic and began pushing boundaries. We'd go to restaurants and she'd automatically order the most expensive items without even glancing at prices. Multiple cocktails that cost $18 each at Miami Beach hotspots. Appetizers we couldn't finish. Dessert, even when she claimed to be watching her figure for bikini season. When I'd suggest sharing something to keep costs reasonable, she'd give me this look like I'd just embarrassed her in public. "You make good money, Marcus," she'd say, with this entitled tone that was becoming more frequent. "What's the point of dating someone successful if they're going to be cheap about dinner? I thought you were different from the broke guys I usually meet." The comparisons started immediately. My friend Ashley's boyfriend surprised her with a tennis bracelet from Tiffany just because it was Tuesday. Or, Brittany's guy took her to the Bahamas for the weekend and posted the cutest photos, always comparing, always implying I wasn't measuring up to some invisible standard. She'd show me photos on her phone constantly, expensive gifts her friends received, restaurant bills from places like Joe's Stone Crab, vacation pictures from Turks and Caicos that their boyfriends had funded. It was like she was running a marketing campaign to convince me I needed to step up my financial game. Then came the job loss. In early May, Madison claimed she'd been unfairly terminated from her consulting position. According to her version, the boutique owner was jealous of how well Madison connected with male customers and how much commission she was generating. She painted herself as a victim of workplace politics and female jealousy. But Miami's luxury retail scene is small, and I had contacts. The real story: Madison had been consistently late, spent most of her time taking selfies in the dressing rooms instead of helping customers, had been caught giving unauthorized discounts to her attractive friends, and had been openly rude to older female clients she considered not worth her time. When I gently suggested she start job hunting immediately, she said she needed time to process this trauma and strategically plan her next career move. This apparently meant spending her days at expensive coffee shops in Coral Gables, networking at expensive lunches in Coconut Grove, and getting weekly treatments at high-end spas in Aventura. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. Instead of walking away like I should have, I offered to help temporarily, just until she got back on her feet. I told myself, what started as covering an occasional dinner quickly escalated to funding her entire lifestyle. Within 6 weeks, I was paying $900 toward her monthly rent. Then her BMW lease payment, when she claimed to be short this month. Then groceries, because she insisted on shopping at Whole Foods in Brickell, and those organic markets that charge $8 for a single avocado. If you're enjoying this story and want to hear how this revenge plot unfolds, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next, because Madison was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. The financial entitlement grew exponentially once Madison realized I was willing to support her. She'd sleep until noon every day, spend 2 hours getting ready, then head to a yoga class or Pilates session in South Beach. After that, she'd meet her unemployed friends for 3-hour lunches at trendy spots like Swan or Carboon, where they'd gossip and take photos of their $35 salads. Then she'd do some networking, which usually meant shopping at Bal Harbour or getting beauty treatments, before showing up at my condo around dinner time. When I'd ask about her job search progress, she'd get defensive. I'm being strategic about this, Marcus. I'm building relationships with the right people and growing my personal brand on social media. You wouldn't understand the long-term strategy behind influencer marketing. You just have to show up at an office and follow orders. Her personal brand consisted of posting workout selfies, food photos, and motivational quotes to her 1,200 Instagram followers, most of whom were probably bots or thirsty guys from her DMs. By month 4, the Venmo requests started coming daily for the most ridiculous things imaginable. $45 for essential skincare products that turned out to be a single face mask. $124 business lunches that were really gossip sessions with her unemployed girlfriends. $220 for an online course about social media marketing that she never completed. The most frustrating part was how she'd react when I questioned expenses. I asked why she needed $85 for a single yoga class when my gym membership included unlimited classes for both of us. It's hot yoga with a celebrity instructor who's been featured in Vogue. She responded, rolling her eyes like I was being completely unreasonable. I'm investing in my wellness journey. I thought you cared about my mental health and personal growth. Everything became an investment in her vocabulary. $180 hair highlights were an investment in her professional appearance. $350 shoes were an investment in her networking wardrobe. A $95 facial was an investment in her emotional well-being. During this challenging transition period, she'd gotten so comfortable that she started making expensive commitments without consulting me. She'd book appointments at high-end salons and assume I'd cover the cost. She ordered a $420 skincare routine online and had it delivered to my apartment, then acted genuinely surprised when I wasn't thrilled about the unexpected expense. I thought you wanted me to look good for you, she said with this manipulative, pouty voice. I'm doing this for us, for our relationship. Don't you want me to feel confident and beautiful? The situation that should have been my wake-up call happened when she suggested I increase my investment contributions and look into cryptocurrency so we could build our financial future together. This was the same week she booked a $280 spa package because she was feeling overwhelmed about our relationship dynamics. My friends started expressing serious concerns. My closest friend Jake pulled me aside after witnessing her order a $25 specialty smoothie while I drank free water and said, "Bro, what are you doing? She's bleeding you dry and you're acting like it's normal." But I was already in too deep psychologically and financially. I'd spent nearly $9,200 on her over 4 months. And I felt like I had to make the relationship work to justify that investment. The sunk cost fallacy is incredibly powerful when you're emotionally attached to someone who looks like Madison. But here's where the story takes a turn. Instead of continuing to be her victim, I decided to conduct an experiment. Madison's birthday was approaching in late July, and she'd been dropping hints for weeks about a specific designer handbag. She wanted a Hermes Birkin, yes, the one that costs more than some people's cars. She'd screenshot it and text me, for reference, saying things like, "Just so you know what I really love," with heart eye emojis. I had already planned something special, a romantic weekend getaway to Key West. I'd booked a suite at the Ocean House with an ocean view, made dinner reservations at latitudes that required booking 6 weeks in advance, and planned a sunset sailing trip. The entire weekend was going to cost about $1,800. But I figured this romantic gesture would help her appreciate what we had. When I told her about the surprise trip, her reaction wasn't what I expected. "That sounds nice," she said without enthusiasm, barely looking up from her phone where she was scrolling through Instagram. "But I was really hoping for something more permanent. You know, something I could keep and treasure forever." She literally pulled up the Hermes website and showed me the bag again, zooming in on the $12,000 price tag. "This would mean so much more to me than just another weekend away. Experiences are temporary, but this would remind me of you every single day." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm telling her about this romantic getaway I'd spent weeks planning, and she's essentially saying she'd rather have an overpriced purse. But here's where my plan began. "What if we do both?" I suggested. "The trip and the bag." Her face lit up, like a kid on Christmas morning. "Really? That would be incredible. You're the most generous boyfriend I've ever had." So I bought the bag, $12,000 plus tax, bringing the total to nearly $13,000. But here's what Madison didn't know. I was documenting everything, every receipt, every Venmo request, every expense. I was building a case, and she was about to hand me all the evidence I needed. The Key West trip was a preview of what was coming. She spent the entire drive taking selfies with the bag, posting Instagram stories about her incredibly generous and thoughtful boyfriend. She barely looked at the beautiful scenery of the overseas highway at the resort. She immediately complained about everything. The room wasn't as big as it looked online. The ocean view wasn't Instagram worthy enough. The bathroom lighting was terrible for her skincare routine. Videos. At our special birthday dinner, she ordered the most expensive item on the menu, a $75 lobster dish, plus appetizers, dessert, and multiple specialty cocktails. Then she spent the entire meal on her phone, responding to comments on her bag photos and posting stories of our dinner. When I suggested she put the phone away so we could actually talk, she said, "This is work, Marcus. I'm building my brand and engagement. You should be proud that I'm documenting our relationship." Her brand consisted of 1,247 followers. The next morning at breakfast, I decided it was time for the conversation that would change everything. "Madison, can we talk about us for a few minutes?" She barely looked up from her screen. "What about us? Where do you honestly see this relationship going? We've been together 7 months. I've been supporting you financially, and I want to understand if you're as committed to building something real as I am." That got her attention. She put her phone down and gave me a look like I was being dramatic. "Committed how?" she said with an edge to her voice. "Emotionally committed. Financially, I'm clearly already invested. I just want to know if you see a future here, or if I'm just convenient right now." She took a sip of her mimosa and shrugged, like this was the most obvious thing in the world. "I mean, you're sweet and you're stable. That's important. You're like my safety net, you know. You handle all the stressful stuff, bills, planning, adult responsibilities, so I don't have to worry about boring things." That's valuable. Safety net. She actually used those words. So what happens when you don't need a safety net anymore? I asked. She looked at me like I was asking why the sky is blue. I don't know. I guess we'll figure that out when it happens, right? There it was. This woman had just accepted a $13,000 bag from me and was casually telling me she viewed me as temporary financial security until something better came along. You know what, Madison? You're absolutely right. We'll definitely see what happens. The drive home was silent. She went back to her phone while I mentally calculated exactly how much money I'd spent and planned my next move. But Madison had no idea what was coming. I spent the following week planning the most satisfying revenge of my life. Here's what I'd learned about dating someone with serious gold digger tendencies. They're terrible with money management because they've become accustomed to other people handling financial responsibilities. Madison had zero savings, no backup plan, no family money, and had gotten completely comfortable living above her means, using my income. Started by quietly canceling services she'd taken for granted. The gym membership that included her as my guest, canceled the family Netflix, Hulu, and Spotify accounts she was using, switched back to individual plans. All the subscription services she'd been accessing through my accounts, passwords changed, the grocery delivery service charging to my credit card, canceled. I also documented exactly how much she was costing me monthly: $900 rent contribution, car payment assistance, food, entertainment, random Venmo requests, beauty treatments, shopping. It averaged $3,200 per month. That was more than my mortgage and living expenses combined. The brilliant part, she'd gotten so comfortable with our arrangement that she'd completely stopped tracking money. She'd just purchase whatever she wanted and assume I'd handle payment. Tuesday, I started testing the waters. I texted that I had to work late on a big project and couldn't do dinner. She responded within minutes. No worries, babe. I'll just order from that new sushi place in Wynwood. Can you send me like $60? Their rolls are pricey, but they look amazing. On Instagram, I didn't respond. Wednesday. She texted asking if I could cover her utilities, since she was tight this month after some unexpected expenses. No response. Thursday. She called twice, asking why I hadn't been answering, and could I please send money for the sushi because her card was declined. And now she owed the restaurant. Finally, I replied, hey, I think we should have a serious conversation. Can you come over Friday evening? Friday arrived, and she showed up carrying multiple shopping bags from expensive stores, wearing a completely new outfit I'd never seen, probably worth $400 easily. Sorry I'm late. I found the most adorable dress at that boutique in the design district. The salesgirl said it was perfect for my skin tone. Oh, and I scheduled that facial I mentioned for tomorrow with that esthetician who works with celebrities. Can you transfer me the money tonight? She said all this while walking into my apartment like she owned it, putting her bags on my couch, opening my refrigerator without asking. Actually, that's exactly what I wanted to discuss with you, I said calmly. What conversation? She was barely paying attention, pulling out her new purchases. Our conversation last weekend about me being your safety net. Oh, that. She waved her hand dismissively. I didn't mean anything negative. You're being oversensitive about word choice. No, I think you meant it exactly how it sounded, and you're completely right. She finally looked up, confused by my tone. I have been your safety net. I've covered your rent, car payment, food, entertainment, beauty treatments, shopping. I've paid for everything you've wanted for months while you've contributed absolutely nothing except your physical presence. That's not fair, she started to protest. You're right though, safety nets are temporary. They are designed to catch you when you fall, not support your entire weight indefinitely while you make no effort to stand on your own. I could see her, starting to realize where this was heading. Panic was setting in. What exactly are you saying? I'm saying you don't need a safety net anymore, Madison. It's time for you to support yourself like an adult. What happened next exceeded my wildest expectations. Within 3 days of cutting off Madison's financial support, her carefully constructed lifestyle began collapsing like a house of cards in a hurricane. Her rent was due and she didn't have the money. Her BMW lease payment bounced. She went to use the gym and discovered her access was revoked. She tried to order food delivery and found her go-to payment method no longer worked. The panic in her voice, when she called, was actually satisfying. She'd clearly never been in a situation where she had to rely on herself financially. She started with angry, indignant text messages. You can't just abandon me like this. This is insane. I can't believe you're being so petty over one conversation. When I didn't respond to her increasingly frantic messages, she switched to manipulation. I'm genuinely scared and don't know what to do. I've never been in this situation before. Can't we discuss this like mature adults? The gaslighting was incredible. She was trying to rewrite history and make it seem like I had forced financial support on her. Complete radio silence from me. By week 2, harsh reality had set in. Her roommates threatened eviction for unpaid rent. Her car was scheduled for repossession. She'd burned through what little money she had trying to maintain her lifestyle, and her credit cards were maxed out. Through mutual friends, I heard she'd been frantically calling everyone she knew asking for loans. Most people saw right through her act, since she'd been bragging about her generous boyfriend to anyone who'd listen. That's when she showed up at my apartment unannounced on a Sunday evening, actually crying real tears for the first time since I'd known her. Her hair wasn't perfectly styled. Her makeup was smeared. She was wearing clothes I'd seen before, clear signs her beauty budget had been cut. Please, I desperately need help, she sobbed, mascara running down her cheeks. I don't have anywhere else to turn. My parents refuse to help because they think I'm irresponsible, and my friends can't loan me money. Interesting how she finally admitted her parents had been supporting her too. I was just the latest in a long line of people funding her lifestyle. What happened to your influencer career? I asked with mock concern. Can't you monetize your 1,200 followers somehow? Don't be cruel. I'm genuinely terrified. I might have to move back home with my parents. I'll lose everything I've built here. That sounds like a reasonable solution to your problem. Please, we can figure this out together. I'll find a job immediately. I'll pay you back every penny. I just need help getting back on my feet this one time. I looked at her standing there in yesterday's clothes, makeup smeared from crying, that expensive Hermes bag clutched in her hands like a life preserver, and felt absolutely nothing. 7 months ago, seeing her cry would have broken my heart. Now it just felt like watching someone face the consequences of their choices. Remember what you said about not knowing what happens when someone doesn't need a safety net anymore, I said calmly. Well, now we both know the answer. Please, she begged, actually getting on her knees in my doorway. I'll do anything. I'll completely change. I'll get a full-time job and contribute to everything. The irony was incredible. She was offering to do all the things a normal girlfriend would do: get a job, contribute financially, show appreciation, but only now that her free ride was over. You had 7 months of chances, Madison, every single day for 7 months. You chose to view me as a personal ATM instead of a boyfriend who deserved respect. That was your decision. She tried every manipulation tactic over the next hour, promising changes, offering to sign repayment contracts, suggesting we start over. When none of that worked, she got angry and showed her true colors. You're going to destroy my entire life over hurt feelings. I never forced you to pay for everything. You offered to help and made me dependent, and now you're cutting me off like I'm nothing. There it was, the victim mentality that had probably gotten her through every other situation where someone stopped enabling her behavior. So, this is really it? You're just going to let me lose everything I've worked for? You haven't worked for anything, Madison. Everything you have was paid for by someone else. This is the natural result of choices you made when you decided I was just your temporary safety net. She stormed out that night, and I haven't seen her since. But the story gets even better. Through mutual friends and social media, I learned she had to move back with her parents in Orlando. Within 2 weeks, she got a job waiting tables at Olive Garden, making minimum wage plus tips. She had to sell the Hermes bag I bought her, along with most of her designer clothes, to pay off debts and avoid car repossession. Her Instagram transformed from daily luxury lifestyle posts to maybe one photo per week, usually taken in her childhood bedroom. Her follower count dropped to under 600 as people lost interest in her suddenly mundane content. A few months later, she attempted one final contact through our mutual friend, Jake. She wanted my number to apologize properly and see if we could meet for coffee and talk like adults. I told Jake to give her a simple message: safety nets don't catch the same person twice. The most satisfying part, I discovered through the grapevine that she'd been telling people I was financially controlling and emotionally abusive. For cutting off support, because apparently funding someone's entire lifestyle for 7 months and then stopping makes you the villain in their twisted reality. Sometimes the people we think need us the most are actually the ones using us the most. Madison taught me that love isn't about what you can provide for someone, it's about what you can build together. Real partners don't view each other as safety nets or meal tickets. They view each other as teammates working toward shared goals. The hardest lesson wasn't learning to spot a gold digger, it was learning to value myself enough to walk away. When someone only valued my wallet, Madison never loved me. She loved my financial stability, and the moment I stopped providing that, her true feelings became crystal clear. Here's my question for you. Have you ever found yourself in a relationship where you were giving everything and receiving nothing in return? How did you find the strength to walk away? Or are you still trapped in that cycle? If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced something similar. Your story might help someone else recognize the warning signs before it's too late. Remember, you deserve someone who loves you for who you are, not what you can provide.